Dennis, we hear about heat detection all the time. Often it's regarded as kind of a simple job and we're all expected to know it. You know, we're all expected to know how to do all these things and use tail paint and so on. Maybe there's some rules of thumb, certain guides, maybe you can help us with just to, how do we use this a bit better?
So look, with heat detection, what we're trying to identify is if a cow or a heifer is in standing heat. So that's the barometer we go off, so our rule, and that helps us with the timing of AI. So if she's in standing heat, we can AI with conventional semen anytime during standing heat or up to 12 hours after the end. So what tail paint, what any of these heat detection aids, they're helping us, without being there all the time, identify if the cow has been in standing heat. So obviously she's going to get, if she's in heat, she'll get plenty of mounts and it'll rub off the tail paint or the scratch card or whatever.
Okay, so people interpret it in slightly different ways and apply it in different ways and so on. Again, have we just got a few guides for us? It's really nice that we're getting a cow actually demonstrating how to mount here.
So look, tail paint, it works very well in cows. So first of all, like this lady demonstrated, she has the weight to actually rub it off. So in a 60 cow herd, there's going to be enough activity for tail paint for the first 3 weeks. In a 100 cow herd, there's going to be enough activity for tail paint for the first 6 weeks.
So you need that high level of activity, enough cows on, so you have a mounting cow always on a standing cow.
Exactly. So the more cows in heat, the more mounts they're going to get, and you need mounts to rub it off, to rub off tail paint. So that's the first thing with it. The next thing is this cow is after being bred this morning, so you can see that she had blue paint, is after being rubbed off. So we're just going to reapply this now. They come in different brands, etc. So what you want really is a nice narrow strip of paint. You know, you don't need to do a ferocious painting job, but a nice narrow strip of paint. Keep it topped up if it wears or if it's getting worn. Keep it topped up. And what you're essentially looking for is that to be rubbed off then. So you don't want to put on too much that's not going to be rubbed off. And it's an aid. It's an aid to help you identify if that cow has been in standing heat.
Yeah, and I think like everybody will have a light hand or a heavy hand with this. So I think it's important that A, who's doing it is consistent, and B, the person who's interpreting it is consistent, because often we can get cows that's half rubbed off. They're getting there. They might leave them till the following morning, but you need to have the confidence and experience with it to do it. So
you know, 60 cow herd plus, brilliant. But as time goes on, the tail paint is going to be building up as you're topping it up, and as time goes on, hopefully cows are going in calf, which means the activity is going to be dropping. So tail paint can get harder to read as the season goes on. So, and I suppose that's the time to think about your vasectomized bull, your stock bull towards the end, maybe your stock bulls, or maybe switching to scratch cards. So we might just show them in another video. The scratch cards work very well when activity drops off.
Okay, ideal. Dennis, you mentioned about scratch cards and using scratch cards, and I've got a couple in my hand already. You might just explain the principle of a scratch card. What's going on with this?
So look, they're like a lottery ticket, I suppose, the way you rub off a lottery ticket. So with the activity and the rubbing, these will change colour. In this case, they're just green. So that's the principle. I suppose the brilliant thing about scratch cards, they require less rubbing and less weight to rub them off. So for that reason, they work exceptionally well in heifers with crayons. And they also work well in cows where the activity is dropping off, or maybe in smaller herds of cows, you know, less than 60 or 50, 60 cows or less, because they require less rubbing or less activity, so to rub them off.
Okay, so I've a scratch card here in my hand that we sprayed already.
Yeah.
So we sprayed that white surface here, and we're just waiting for it to get a little bit tacky, because the key here is that we need to get enough purchase between the card and the actual hair of the animal to hold it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole principle is spray your card. So if there's 4 or 5 animals in the crush, put them up on a barrel or something. Spray them. Spray the cows or the heifers up here. So just on the high part up here is a good place to spray. Wait for them to go tacky. And that's just going tacky there now, and just apply it east to west then across the back of the cow or the heifer there. And they work really well. And
that's important, it's the east to west bit, and I often find it's almost like that halfway point between the point of the tail there and the point of our pin bones there.
And another thing then, these are little crayons or chalk sticks, and if you combine them, so you need to kind of rub them off the wall to get them working.
You might even rub it off the bar there, we can get it in the video. Get them working. And then
if you combine the scratch card and the crayon and put both of them on together, really you can't beat it as a method of heat detection. So a nice a nice strip of it behind the scratch card, and when you have the two of them together then you can read the two of them. So if the scratch card is gone, the crayon is gone, you're 100% sure. Sometimes the scratch card might be a little bit activated if they rubbed or got a few mounts or rubbed off something, and if the crayon is still there, you say, no, she's not in heat. So the two of them really, the belt and braces approach, they work very well.
So you're really increasing your accuracy then?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's the risk with some of the scratchers? We say, I don't use them, they come off and they pull them off and so on. What's your experience of that?
I suppose indoors heifers, yeah, they can pull them off, but I suppose the big one really is bushes and trees, so just be careful where they're going out, because it's soul destroying to put them onto a bunch of heifers and then leave them off and leave them all rubbed off and torn off and activated under
and
bushes.
That's why the crayon then will help you again, at least you know the crayon. So if the crayon hasn't been activated and the card has been whipped off, you know it's been whipped off as such.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but in fairness, most systems, if they're put on well, there's a couple of systems available, they seem to stick.
They do.
Pretty good.
Yeah.